We are now going to focus on what to do as a tea guest. So imagine you have been invited to a tea ceremony. You are in a beautiful tea house or a chasutsu. What do you do? Well, the first thing you do is, of course, enter the tea house. Most people will enter the tea house via a door like this. This is called a fusuma. The fusuma opens using this latch. And it leads out to the tea garden, which is called the roji. From the tea garden, you come in. Usually you crawl in, and then you close the door. When we crawl in, we lead using our fan or our sensu. And when we move, if I just move this a little bit back, when we move by putting our sensu in front of us and using our fists to slide. So let's imagine we're crawling in, put our sensu in front of us, using our fists, we move. Sensu in front of us, using our fists, we move. Now we do this motion when we are actually entering the tea house from the fusuma. Once we have entered, then we can stand up. Usually to stand up, especially when you're in seiza position, maybe let me first explain what seiza position is. So, can you see, let me just move this way. Can you see how I'm sitting? My knees are here, my feet are like so, my back is straight. This is called the seiza position. And for some people it's a little bit difficult, however you will get used to it. And this is how we usually sit in a tea house. To get up from the seiza position, once we have entered the tea room, we of course hold our sensu, usually in our right hand, and then we gently up like this, and some people put their some people put their right foot like so, and then we stand. Now, the problem with a tea house is, this is the roof. So if you are a little bit tall, you have to stand a bit like this, otherwise your head hits the roof. The next thing we have to do is to walk to the tokonoma. When we get to the tokonoma, leading always with our sensu, we sit. and then we bow. We look at the beautiful writing, the scroll on the kakujiku. The scroll writing is this part of the scroll is called the honshi. We then look at the flowers. We look back at the scroll. We bow again. And then we get up. Again, making sure we don't hit our heads. And then, usually we also pay respect to the tea master, but in this case, let's just sit down in this area here. We are now ready to begin. One thing I like to note is when we actually do sit down, especially with our kimono, move the kimono like so, so our knees are in a nice position and the kimono looks very straight. Usually for a man, there's a little bit of space between the two knees, and for a lady, much more tighter. So now we're in this position. Usually there's a tea host, and we respect the tea host by giving a bow. Now there are 3 types of bows in the Japanese tea ceremony. The most formal one is called the shin bow, okay, and it looks kind of like this. The hands are here, flat on the tatami. We bow maybe at around 45 degrees, and then we're back. The other 2 bows, one is called the gyo bow, which is like so, and one is called the sa bow, which is like so. The sa bow is the least formal. So usually in a tea ceremony, especially when we are greeting the host, called the teishu, we do the full shin bow. Usually when we are greeting other customers, other guests, this side and this side, we use the gyo bow. The other thing to note is where our hands are. Now, my hands automatically go into this position because I'm used to making tea. But if you are a guest, usually the hands are in this position. Right hand is covered by the left hand. Once you have done a formal bow to the tea host, you can move your sensu behind you. This sensu is very interesting. It's a barrier. It says that you recognize you are entering a holy space. Once you have greeted the host, once you have greeted the tokonoma, once you have paid respect to the tea house, the barrier disappears. And hence, you move your sensu behind you. There are now no barriers between you, the tea house, the guests, and the hosts. This is the spirit of Japanese tea. Okay, I'd now like to introduce you to 3 guests. I am one of them. This is our first guest. I am the second guest, and Guma-chan is our 3rd guest. So this is the guest order. The first guest we call the Shōhyaku. Hyaku just means customer, I guess, in Japanese. Kyaku-sama. You might hear it when you go to the shops. So this is the Shōhyaku, which is the most important guest, number 1. I will be the Ji-kyaku, the 2nd guest. And the last guest, or the Mak-kyaku, will be Guma-chan. So the first guest, the most important guest, Shōkyaku. The middle guest, myself, Ji-kyaku. And the final guest, Mak-kyaku. Now if there was another guest, this would be, Guma-chan would be San-kyaku. But there isn't, so he is Mak, the end, Mak-kyaku. Okay, the first thing we usually get served in a tea ceremony is the sweets. Now, sweets in Japanese are called, well, these kind of sweets are called wagashi. And this wagashi is actually a special type called a nerikiri. It's made of uncle paste. Very beautiful. So usually it is served like this. Okay, these are the sweets. When we are sitting in our tatami, on our tatami, this area is the kyakusama area, the guest area, and this tatami area is our space. And when we are sitting on the tatami, we usually leave 16 centimeters between this border and our knees. That gives us a little bit of space to do some stuff. So, this is how it's served to us. First thing we do is acknowledge or thank the host. So we pick it up with both our hands, and then we put it back down. So once again, we pick it up with both our hands, and we put it back down. Next thing we do is take our paper. This paper is called kaishi, and kaishi is usually used to put the sweets on, and then we can eat that way. With this kaishi, if it's in a kimono, it'll be this side. If you're wearing a suit, usually you put your kaishi at the back of you and then bring it out to the front when the sweets are served. So now we place our kaishi here. We then need to pick up our chopsticks, our hashi. Now, ohashi chopsticks are very difficult for me, so let me do my best. We use our right hand to pick the chopsticks up like so. We then use our left hand and we position our right hand to here, and now we can pick up this wagashi, hopefully. So as I said, my chopstick skills, not too bad. I surprised myself. And then once we finish, we put it back in this position. Now, interesting to note, if we had more wagashi, we will offer it to the next person, like so. Usually, in the tea ceremony, they'll provide you with a tea pick. Here's another different type of tea pick. This is actually made from ivory. And what we do is we pick up our wagashi with our left hand, and with the right hand, we cut. Then we pick, and then we enjoy. Very nice. Usually the wagashi will change depending on the season. So summer and winter, autumn and spring will have a different flower or a different ornamentation to indicate to the guest the changing seasons. And in Japanese tea ceremony, the philosophy of changing seasons is also very much part of that senrikyu wabi-sabi feel that tea ceremonies in Japan are known for. Okay, now the next thing you are served is the tea. But sometimes you are not served it here. So usually, especially for foreign guests, the tea host will serve the tea like this. This is quite simple. But sometimes the tea host will leave it near them, and you as a customer will have to go and collect the tea. Let me show you how that's done. Okay, let me go through that. Let me move this back up here. So let's assume that this area here is where the tea master is, and he has made some tea and he puts the tea here. We are all the way back here. Let's collect the tea. So this is our starting position. Again, just like when we entered the tea house, we use our fists to move. And we drag ourselves across the tatami. When we are about this distance away, we can then move the tea bowl with our right hand to our center, holding our left hand with this knee. Then again, we move back and we move the tea bowl. We move back and we move the tea bowl. We move back and we move the tea bowl, and then we move back to our starting position, 16 centimeters, and we move the tea bowl. We are now ready to enjoy our tea. Okay, so now we're in our kyaku datami, our guest area. We have our chawan here. Let me show you. Ready to go. Okay, we'll assume there's some tea in there. What do we do next? Okay, first thing we do is we bring our chawan with our right hand into our area. So now the chawan is in the kakudatami area. If it's only us, we give a shin bow and we say Otemae chodai itashimasu to the tea host. So shin bow, remember, is like this. Otemae chodai itashimasu. We then pick up the tea bowl, acknowledge it, and place it into our left hand. With our right hand, we turn the tea bowl. Now, when it comes to us, now this tea bowl, this chawan doesn't have it, but when it comes to us, usually it has a face. Okay, we call this face a showman, and the showman is facing the guest, and so it will come like this, like this. Otemae chodai itashimasu. We pick it up with our right hand, place it on our left hand, and the showman, the face, is looking at us. We then need to turn it to face the tea host. We turn it using our right hand, 1/4, 1/4. We then drink, navigating using the left hand as a base and the right hand as an up and down movement, like so. This is the most basic style. However, what happens if we have guest 1, guest 3? So now let's focus just on the first guest, okay? So I have my tea bowl, and it's in here. So he already has his tea bowl, and he's enjoying his tea. So the first thing I need to ask him is, would you like some of my tea? Would you like some more tea? So we usually say more ippuku. Ippuku means another shot of tea or another cup of tea. More ippuku ike desu ka? Would you like some more tea? Ike ga, what do you think? How do you feel about it? Or would you like? Ike ga desu ka is a very formal, polite way of asking this question in Japanese. So we will say, we will put the tea bowl in between him and me. Then we'll do gyobao, and we will say, mo ippuku ike ga desu ka? And he will say, no. Then you will say, osobon itashimasu. I will now drink. Thank you for allowing me to drink. We then move our tea bowl to the third guest. So now we're with the third guest, our friend Guma. So again, we put the tea bowl in between the third guest, Guma-chan, and myself. And this time we say, I'm sorry for going ahead of you. So, osaku ni is I'm going next. Okay, so osaku ni shitsurei shimasu means I'm going ahead of you, please forgive me. So we put the bowl here. Again, gyo bow. Osaku ni shitsurei shimasu. Then we move it here. And in this position, we formally acknowledge the tea master by saying, Otemae chodai itachimasu. And then Guma-chan will wait for his tea to come. So there you have it. It's quite a long process, especially when you are in the middle and you have two. Once you've finished, there will be a little bit of a mark on the chawa. So with your kaishi, just wipe with your thumb to clean it, and then wipe your thumb with your kaishi, and then once you're finished, you put it on the other side of the tatami and indicate you're finished, usually by going. And there you have it. All the rules you need to know when you as a guest enter the Japanese tea room.